name is Sharon Itua. I'm a Kashim Ibrahim Fellow. Uh, this is the Kaduna Book and Arts Festival, and I welcome you to my panel discussion with Her Excellency, the First Lady of Kaduna State and the founder of Namse El-Rufai Foundation, YELF, Hadiza El-Rufai, education development expert and author of children's book, Namse Udosen, and Ahmad Mahmood, a cartoonist, artpreneur, and YouTuber that teaches kids literacy through play. Today, we'll be discussing improving literacy across northern Nigeria. But before we proceed, I would like us to do something. Please indulge me. How many of us here are familiar with the put a finger down game? Yes? Okay, so we'll play it together. I ask a couple questions. You put our palm up, one palm up. And then for every question, okay. When I say put a finger down, if you've done something, you put a finger down. So can you please indulge me? I'll play along. Put a finger down if we've ever started a book and never finished it. Okay. Put a finger down if you've ever bought a book and never read it. Yeah? Oh, okay. Put a finger down if you've ever only looked at pictures in the book. Okay. Put a finger down if you've ever crammed to pass but not read to understand. Okay, and then put a finger down if you've ever slept off while reading a book but stayed up all night to see a movie. Please put your hands together for yourselves. Thank you for indulging me. Okay, welcome Ahmad, welcome Namse, welcome Your Excellency. Let's get straight into it. So in 30 seconds, I'll start with you, ma'am. What does literacy mean to you? In 30 seconds.
Well, basically, the definition of literacy is to be able to read and write.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the literal meaning. But what literacy means to me, it's so much more than that. It means survival. It means the ability to reach your potential, your God-given potential. Literacy is very, very important. Simply, it is to read and write. But that ability to read and write opens so many doors to so many people that I believe that it is even a question of survival in the world of today.
Thank you so much for that. Namse?
Yeah, literacy to me is not just reading and writing, but the ability to understand, analyze, and to engage with written texts in different languages.
Thank you for that. Maruf?
Okay, I think literacy is the ability to read, write, understand, teach, and apply. That's simple.
Thank you. So let's go into some worrying statistics. Nigeria's out-of-school children population stands at 10.5 million, and majority of these children are found here in northern Nigeria, with most of these occurring in rural communities. Even more depressing is the fact that in the last 2 years, less than 6% of Nigeria's budget went into education. Ma'am, how can we get the government to prioritize the education sector?
That's a very good question. The government has an important role to play. However, I think a major part of the problem we're having now is where the focus is in education. We tend to focus so much more on tertiary education. All of you are aware of the problems we are having now with ASU being out of. They are not working at the moment. But I think for us to progress as a country, the government has to put more focus on basic education. Most of the money towards education should go towards improving basic education, primary, secondary education. I'm going to say something that may not be a popular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. Not everybody is supposed to go to university. Not everybody is supposed to go to university. So I think the government should put their hands out of tertiary education so that the little funds that are available can be put towards basic education. every child should be able to have primary and secondary education, and then from there you decide what to do. Maybe you will be in the skills, or if you are smart enough, you want to go to the university, you move ahead to the university. Our multinationals that make millions of dollars from our country should be able to give scholarships to bright students. If your parent can afford, they can take you to university. If they can't afford and you're smart, you should get scholarship. Otherwise, you find another path in life. There are so many other paths. Many people make a very good living by being plumbers, electricians, and carpenters. There are so many other things to do. So the government, I believe, should focus more on basic education rather than the tertiary education.
Thank you so much. Namse, I see you nodding. I want to ask a follow-up to that. I will hear your thoughts on that. But in addition, do you think there are enough collaborative efforts between the government and non-governmental organizations to fixing this? I mean, the focus on primary basic education.
Yeah, there are collaborations, but they're not enough. And on the other hand, we are talking about 10.5 or 13.5 out of school children. I feel that's not even a problem. My major problem is the other people that are in school but are not learning. There are over 50 million people in school but are not learning. We have people going through 6 years of primary school. They can't read. This is a boy. The most basic of sentences. 6 years in school, not at home. He was going to school for every day for 6 years, and he cannot read a basic sentence. So that is where we have the problem, and we need to fix our schools, teaching methods, and how the whole structure is run.
Thank you so much. Now, speaking about teaching methods, Maruf, you are very passionate about children development, and you also use play dates and plays to educate these kids. That's a different, unconventional method of teaching. Now, what do you think can be done to get more people interested in using this kind of unconventional methods to bring literacy home?
Okay, for starters, from the first question you asked, sorry, I just want to touch on that. I really think the concept of education needs to be redefined by the Nigerian government, because if you see other countries and how they regard education, and then you come back to Nigeria and see what education is, you see out-of-school children, you see dilapidated classrooms, you see ASU strike, I mean, that is just so heartbreaking. And the honest truth is these early stages are the developmental stages for learning. If these children miss out on that first part, it's gone. So I don't see a reason why. That's what Namse is saying. If they have the first 6 years gone, they can't go to secondary school and perform. They are just going there in the name of going to school. So I think that education needs to be redefined. Let's know what education means to the Nigerian government, and then they can lay emphasis and see how they can get the necessary stakeholders to run into that. I want to stress something. It is Namse's mantra on Twitter. There is no state in Nigeria that has a literacy development plan. 36 states, and there's none. So I don't know, that's the bedrock, that's the foundation. So what are you building on? So I really think this needs to be stressed. The right people should take that to the government, and let's reshuffle and see. It's still not too late to do that. Since we've not been getting it right, I don't know, are we going to keep going backwards? So it needs to be done. Sorry, lastly, Ahmad Mahmood was here for, I think, CAD Invest 3 years ago. Was it 3 years? No, in 2018 or so. He said the educational system of Nigeria is not working and should be scrapped completely, and we should have a new one implemented. I agreed with him, but I don't think anybody took him seriously, but I think it's something we really need to see. So for the play dates you mentioned, this is something that I've been doing for a while. I actually engage my younger ones, kids from the neighborhood, including house helps children. I'm talking of kids that are not even going to school, but they're in the house. So if you're going to involve your younger ones and those ones are available, you can't take just those who can read and write and then leave those ones out because they can't learn. So I bring them in, they can't speak English. So what I usually do is, if it's reading, they have books. So they should look into these books and try to tell me what is happening from the pictures that they see. If they can actually tell a story, and I ask questions in Hausa, and they answer intelligently. So this is telling you that they just don't have the opportunity. But they are not dull, they are not dumb, they are just not opportune to do so. So these play dates try, and we have zero we don't have on-screen time. It's completely books. Her Excellency showed us, put on appearance, so she saw what we do there. There is just books, games, and stuff that will help the child develop and improve motor skills, things that we are missing from our childhood that these days you don't see around. The digital world has changed everything. So for those who can't be digital, does that mean they shouldn't learn? That's what we should ask ourselves.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting that you mentioned the literacy development plan. Namse, I'll come to you. To commemorate the 2022 International Literacy Day, your organization, in conjunction with 2 other NGOs, distributed books and had a walk tagged Walk for Literacy, which was aimed at advocating for inclusive education for all and for the need for communities to be more proactive in developing a literate society. On this walk, you reiterated the importance of the federal and Kaduna state government to develop a literacy development plan to improve the literacy rate, especially for school children. Can you shed more light on this, please?
Yes. If you look at Kaduna State and other states, like Kaduna, we have the Kaduna Urban Renewal Plan, Kaduna Master Plan, we have the Kaduna Markets Plan, Kaduna Roads Plan, and those are very good, but we don't have a literacy development plan. That's why sometimes when you see people say El-Rufai is demolishing, because there's a plan, if you're going to build a house on that place where it's supposed to be a football field or something, the government will remove it because that is not part of the plan. So the same thing with the illiteracy, you need to have a plan and give yourself targets that, okay, in the next 5 years, we want every child in a public school that is in primary 1 to be able to recognize these 100 words, to be able to recognize these 100 sentences, should be able to have this amount of books, and then you begin to work towards that. Then how do I execute this plan? I need teachers, I need books, I need environmental facilities. Then you start making provisions for that. Like we're talking about NGOs. Now, most of the NGO work does not really bear fruit because the NGO are working on this side, the government is working on this side, there's no plan to guide them. So it's just, they're just throwing money into the ocean and it's not having impact on the children. It's not targeted at the children properly. So once you have a literacy development plan in place, it would direct your recruitment policy, it would direct the teacher training. Like we're talking about literacy development now, there is no literacy training program for teachers in the university, so Faculty of Education. I'm doing my PhD in ABU, Faculty of Education. I did my first degree in UNICA. There is no course on teaching literacy, and teaching literacy is a skill. Even if those that study English and study literature, that's different from teaching literacy, how to read and write. So these people are going to be the future teachers. They go through NCE, BEd, MEd, and they're not even trained on how to teach the younger ones. And so it's a problem. So once you have a literacy, those are the things that come into place. You know the type of books you're going to have. You have a book policy where you subsidize. Like I have an example here. If you see the foreign books, Rumpel, Still, or the rest, you can get this one for like 300 naira, 500 naira, and it's foreign, it's imported. But the ones that are made in Nigeria are about 1,000 and above because of the cost of production. So these are the strategic plans that if you want to improve literacy, let children have access to textbooks and reading. Let there be a plan so that we can have the books far, far cheaper and every man on the streets can afford it.
Thank you for that, Namse. It's interesting that you mentioned books. This is a general question to the panel, but I'll start with you, ma'am. Many children's books in the market are written by non-indigenous writers, like Namse just pointed out, and it seems to cause a disconnect for young readers because we see them reading about purple dinosaurs. Authors are now beginning to write more homegrown content for reading and for TV. Our very own LS, Lola Shonei, is publishing a collection of region-specific stories. you as well you also have some books on the market that cater to the older audience. What do you think is the value of incorporating more indigenous literature books into the educational curriculum?
I think the value of that cannot be overestimated, honestly, because I can understand in years past, when we were younger, reading about Rapunzel with the long hair and things like that, but I think we should forget all that. We have our own stories. We have our own stories to tell, and our children need to see people that look like them in storybooks. So I think the value of that cannot be overemphasized. And I want to add that that is why I've recently started a publishing company which is targeted towards telling our own stories. Okay? People like Namse already, they have certain works, you know, and I think a few people would like to encourage our indigenous writers that write about our own society so that our children growing up will feel a sense of belonging. So I think it's really very important for us to do that.
Okay, thank you for that. Would you want to add something, or I give you a minute?
I'd like to add. Okay, just to add to that, I think that's a very good idea. It's something that is nice, and it's nice to read something that can absorb you into a book. You're reading about landmarks and places that you can relate with and go on this in a story, or they're talking about a place that you actually visited, you've experienced before. So your imagination just takes you there. You already know, you can relate to it. Since you could relate to cars flying and a train disappearing into a school in a crag on a hill, so this is the same thing, okay? I am actually writing a book too. I've been writing since 2017. So I've been taking my time, because there are times you just get blocked and you're going to disappoint people. If you go ahead, you just want to finish the book. So I'm taking my time, but it's based in Kaduna State, and it's something that, it's a children's novel. So children's novel, I want it to be something that the children can read and relate to, so that it's going to be something they can use even in schools as part of the curriculum. They do that. Namse has books. You didn't mention Namse has the fundamentals of etiquette. He has Silly Sally and some other books too. So I think everybody is trying to do something that is going to depict the society that we live in, so that we can focus more on ours than foreign books.
Absolutely. Namse, I hope you have some copies of your book at the bookstore. Please buy some copies, guys. Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned. I wanted to add that Africans have an oral history culture through folklore and storytelling, and this method has been used to improve oral language, reading comprehension, and writing. And from what we've said on this panel, I think it would be important to reintroduce and deepen this art as an essential ingredient for revitalizing literacy. So let's progress on to the advancement of technology and the role it plays in improving the literacy rate, especially in northern Nigeria. Now, with the advancement of technology, there is this fear that the 10.5 million out-of-school children earlier mentioned will further be alienated from society. A possible solution that we've seen here in Kaduna State especially is the blended hybrid learning approach, which is a great idea but still has some hiccup in terms of execution. Now, what do we think northern Nigeria, northern educators can do to adapt and adopt this learning approach for it to work and not just be a thing good on paper but not good in execution? Namse, please.
Yeah, I think for blended learning is beautiful, but we have to solve our fundamental problems first. We have to come down from the high alts and come to the ground. I do work with Almajiri children and other street children in the Angwa. No, these are places that most government officials would never visit, would never see the reality on ground. These places are without lights, without drainage, without basic infrastructure. So that blended learning becomes difficult, because when you have to give them computers, laptops, tablets. I know, like in the youth mentorship program, we gave them we gave them tablets at the point for the creative writing program to our mentees. I know that there are some children that it was the parents that took over those tablets to use because they couldn't afford it. So when this are given to them, they look, oh wow, so they're giving you this big tablet. Me, I'm using Palasta phone. You know, so poverty becomes another problem. Even, let's look at even the normal one, the books. I've gone several times, I see these books donated by British Council, not for sale. Donated by UBE, not for sale. If you go to Yakubu Gowon, post office, they're selling, and it's stamped there boldly, not for sale. And people are selling them. Who are the people selling these things? So you can imagine, that's books that 500 naira. So you can imagine when you give these children tablets that is over like 50,000. You know, so there are lots of problems, fundamental problems at the grassroots that has to be solved first before you can now think of those blended learning. Yeah.
Okay, but I think now with the blended learning approach, there is also the introduction of radios as a tool to improve literacy, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. I know that they use radios to also educate these kids. So I think it goes beyond digital and tabs and all that. Isn't that an approach to be looked into and to be like widely adopted?
Yes, it's good, and also we should look at community-based learning centers as we used to have those days. What we used to call evening school those days. Once the community takes charge of those things, then you cannot grow it from there. So if you go to a community, maybe there's a mosque there, there's a church there, or there's a school there, people can gather there and hold programs from time to time. Then the king or the Meangwa, whoever is in charge of that place, now creates a security. The community owns that project, so that if the government puts resources there, you know that it is safe and secure. Because even the earlier schools, that's the problem they're facing now. There's some resources in Superb office, they can't be deployed to the schools because of security. Because the schools kind of are like cut off from the society. So the society don't feel they have a need to protect those resources. Those are kind of things, that's what the kinds of advocacy we do to the societies, that you guys own this thing, it's your own, it's for the benefit of your children. If you allow area boys to come and carry the things in the school, it's your children that will suffer it. The governor, children will not suffer it. So communities need to take charge of their learning.
Ma'am, I see you. I see you. Yeah.
No, but it's true now. They think they're punishing the government, but they're punishing themselves at the end.
I think we're here to discuss ways for policymakers, parents, students, educationists to see how we can improve literacy. Ma'am, what do you think of the blended learning approach, and how can we make it better?
I think I have to agree with what Namse has said, really, because we have fundamental problems that we need to sort out first. It's a good idea, but we have lots and lots of problems. Yeah. From even the teachers themselves that are supposed to teach our children, they don't have the competence. So it's really
okay.
Something.
Thank you for that. Maruf, when she said teachers don't have the competence, you were very eager to speak. Let's hear your thoughts, please.
Well, what I want to say is the honest truth is we're just talking and talking, but the main thing is these fundamental things you're talking about need to be put in place. I did my NYSC in National Teachers Institute. Many people here don't know they have a radio station. Teachers Radio 102.1. Nobody listens to that. Because I served there. So each time I keep telling people the Teachers Radio, turn it on. They turn it on, and in less than a minute, they just switch it. The voice is dull, the content is bad, and it's so backward, and that's what I'm saying. So when I left, you won't believe that I kept getting calls to please come back. You're not going to pay me. And then you want me to lend my voice and my ideas to produce something that is going to help. Of course, I can do that at a certain cost. But I'm just trying to tell you that nobody listens to Teachers Radio. Till this very day, try tuning it in 102.1, and they close at 7 p.m. From 7 a.m., the programs are played and replayed and replayed, and you can just cram everything because it's just like a voiceover going on and on and on. You get bored and you sleep. That's you. So a child that needs to be engaged and taught. That's why I even feel that those radio programs that went on during the COVID time, it's just to put it out there that something is being taught, but I don't think they learned anything.
Yes.
They didn't learn anything. If you have a class in a public school that has 100 and something children or 70 something children in a class, in class it's even hard for them to sit and listen. You think with the busy days they're thinking of what to eat at home, do you think they'll sit and the mom will even turn on the radio and tell them Zoku Zona Kusorara? Do you think they'll do that? I'm just trying to tell you, in a typical Hausa community, they'll tell them, okay, Zakutukuna radio, this time to this time, FRCN is going to be airing this program. What do you think they're going to learn from that? Maybe that's even the time they go out to look for what to eat or do something. So I'm just trying to tell you that radio and all these things is not the way. Let's go back to those fundamental things. Let them eat well. Let them have something in store so that the environment is even conducive and favorable for them to learn.
Thank you. Let me check in with my audience. Are we learning so much, guys? Yes? Okay, awesome. Namse, you earlier mentioned evening schools, and interestingly or coincidentally, we had a session on the Al-Majiri and Islamia system of education yesterday with Professor Auduti? Yes? Okay, no. Okay, my bad. Yes, Abdulaziz, thank you for that. Now, what are your thoughts on how this system can be modernized, incorporating more Western education, taking into consideration people's sensibilities? How can we do this? General question, but I'll start.
The first thing is to remove the whole dichotomy of Western and education is education. Education is not Western, Northern, or this. Education is the ability to be functional in a society. And once you start making way, that's why they start feeling, okay, you're bringing something from the West. Learning how to read and write is not from the West. We as Africans have been reading and writing for many years before the colonial people came. So let's stop making this West thing look so spectacular. That's why we have to start changing. That's all these books we're talking about. We start changing our curriculum. Because the colonialists gave us a system that made us feel that what we had was inferior to what they were bringing. So we should stop saying the Western education. Let's talk of education. Let everybody learn. And as a country, like you talk about scrapping it, we need to rejig our educational philosophy and tell us, in fact, we don't have an educational philosophy now. We have an examination system, not an educational system. Because everybody's going to school to pass exam and to get one certificate or the other. So that's where we start from and say, okay, let these boys develop skills. Like, look at this critical company, guys. That's a skill that is worth millions. But I'm sure they don't have a certificate in film making. If you ask them, where is Richard? Richard used to Raymond. They don't have a certificate. They didn't go to any school, university, and have a degree in filmmaking or editing. But they have those skills. Today, they're working with Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman didn't call them because they had a BSc from Jos Film School or from ABU or from CASU. It's because they have skills. That's why they got that job. So we need to let these children know, okay, yes, that these skills are for their survival. This education is for their survival. It's not, so they can always learn religion and skills. Let me not say Western, and skills for surviving. Because even other religions, people still learn, read their Bible, read everything, and still go to school and still get knowledge and skills in other places. In Saudi, I see them, they're building robots. 6-7-year-olds are doing robotics. In China, they're doing the same thing. They're doing the same thing. So these Al-Majiri children can benefit from that. And from our work, where's Ibrahim? From our little work, we see the impact on them. If you give them your phone now, they can configure it for you now. And they've not been to school, they can just carry your phone and know the apps. They don't know that it's game, they don't know that it's music, they know everything. And they haven't been to school, so skills are very important.
Awesome. I must commend Namse and his team for the brilliant work they're doing with the Al-Majiri kids. I've seen videos and pictures. We were not able to show some, so well done and keep the fire burning. While I was researching this topic, I came across Ajami script. It's an Arabic script they use in Sokoto Caliphate. And when you mentioned that education is education, it's not Western, it's not Northern, it struck home. Your Excellency, would you care to shed more light on the Al-Majiri and Islamia system, in addition, maybe not in addition, but in contrast or in addition, anyone, to what Namse has said, and how it can be modernized, and should it be incorporated now into our present-day curriculum?
Okay, thank you very much. What Namse has said is valid, but I would like to differ a little bit. You know, even in Islam, there's a saying that you should look for the good of the world as though you are never going to die. And you should try and look for the good you'll get in the hereafter as if you're going to die immediately. What that means is you shouldn't do one at the expense of the other. You should look for your livelihood on earth at the same time as you are looking for the reward in heaven. Now, the Al-Majri system that we have, why I would like to fault it is because it is solely concentrated on the hereafter. These children, they cannot make a living from the Al-Majri system, from what they've learned. That's even if it is true that they are actually learning, which is disputable. You understand? But let's give it to them, that they are actually learning the Quran and all the things they're supposed to do, fine. But will that help them here on earth to make a living? It will not. So certainly something has to be done. I believe that every child should have the privilege of the Western education because of the way the world is today. Unfortunately, that's it. For you to be able to make a living, you need to at least have that education. Yeah, the formal education. So there's a lot that has to be done to reform the Al-Majri system. If we agree that they don't need the Western education, then certainly for their livelihood on earth, they have to be taught some kind of craft that would help them. But they cannot just be learning the Quran and whatever the Malams teach them, and that's it.
Thank you for
That's
that,
my
ma'am.
view.
Maruf, let's hear your thoughts quickly.
Okay, what I'd like to say is I would like to, the Al-Majri issue has been overflogged, let's be very honest, and yesterday it was well presented. My brother Abdurrahman Leme is doing a very great job with that. He's recognized for doing that. And Abdulaziz talked about it, Mariam elaborated. So I think that has been tackled. I want to bring our heads back to something that we really haven't touched or talked about, and it worries me a lot, okay? I am a nomad, a full-blown nomad, and there's never been a time in my life that I felt like burying myself alive like now because of who I am. So we have the NCNE, Nomadic Education, the National Commission for Nomadic Education. It's charged with that responsibility to provide quality basic education for nomadic children. It's still in existence. It has been since 1989 or so. I'm sure many people here don't even know it exists. And now, let's be very honest, the elephant in the room, what are we finding ourselves in now? This insecurity thing, the banditry, everything boils down to what? That literacy was absent, and this is a consequence of not going through with that plan. So you can see what's happening. The other day, I'm sorry, I want to say this. The other day at the ATM, I went to get money, withdraw money, and when I was done, there was a long queue because it kept delaying and all that. So when I withdrew everything, I was about to go, the next person in the queue boldly told me that I was here to withdraw money from the ransom that I kidnapped somebody because I'm Fulani. He told me that boldly, Jais Bank ATM, and I felt so bad, but I didn't even say anything. What are you going to say? Are you going to attack him? Nobody there said a thing. They were standing, they were listening. This is all a reflection of not going through with that plan. If they had gone to schools, if the schools were revived, if they had something to do, you wouldn't even start talking about, I don't know, we're talking about ranches and there was this talk of war, governors were fighting over it. Why weren't we talking about this nomadic education when that's the basic thing? You're leaving primary school and you're jumping to the university. If they had gone to these schools, they themselves would talk about implementing these new ways that they could have ranches and new settlements, and there would be no insecurity in Nigeria. So that's why I'm bringing us back to this. Please, for those, Her Excellency is here, we have to be saying this because we're utilizing the opportunity that you're available. Not everybody, not every First Lady is available, let's be very honest. We need to look into this nomadic education thing and take it seriously, since now we can see the repercussions. Let's try and revive them. But now it's not even safe. So I'm even saying it's not going to be possible because of movement, because of the stigma and everything. So it's going to be almost impossible. But let's look at the possibilities. If that body still exists, what are they up to? What are they doing? If it's funding, whatever it is, the government should help us. Because if the Almajiri has been tackled and the nomadic education is back, you have 3 arms. You have that, you have this, you have that. 3 arms, at least education is going to go forward. Don't you think so?
Yes, I do.
So I think we should really look into that.
Thank you for that. I would like to say I'm very sorry that you went through that.
That's fine, that's fine.
I'm glad that we're here. I'm learning every day, and this panel has taught me much more than you can imagine. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. Now, in closing, there is this popular saying that if you want to hide anything from an African, put it in a book. And from research, so many spectrum of factors have caused this poor reading culture, a defective education system, the reading language problem, lack of well-equipped library. My panelists, how do we think we can change this narrative? How can we inculcate a stronger reading culture? Excellency.
Generally, reading culture is, how shall I say, it's becoming, reading is becoming less, we need to really encourage it, especially among the young people, because they have a lot of distractions now, a lot of distractions. Now they play video games, things like that, So we have to do our own bit to encourage right from when our children are small, so that they enjoy that experience of reading. This also brings us to the issue of having children's books that reflect our own culture, that talks about our monuments, our history, we also have folk tales. Like in, when we were growing up in Hausa, there's this Tatsunia that they used to tell us. I'm worried that these they may just disappear. Yeah, we need to put it on paper and encourage our children to read. I think that will be a help.
Thank you so much for that. Let me check in with my audience. I would like to take 2 questions now. I see you in the maroon hair, right there. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Sharon.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. It's a pleasure to see you once again. Let me just skip to my question. Okay, so my question has been partly answered. And this is my question. When you regard literacy in Nigeria, is it a direct comparison with the West, or in terms of communication for survival? So it has been touched on, like, when we are talking about literacy, we are saying, can you be relevant to survive in the society, basically, so you don't become a nuisance? So I don't know if...
Okay. Your question is directed at Her Excellency? To the panel?
Just to the panelists.
Okay, who would like to take that? Can you say the question again, please?
Okay, when you regard literacy in Nigeria, is it in direct comparison with the West, or you're just saying, I want you to be able to function in the society. Don't be a nuisance. Because when I think of literacy, I'm thinking, can I communicate with you? Because there are some people that are educated, but you can't communicate with them. I don't know whether it's a barrier in grammar or...
Okay,
or if I
understand where she's
can
coming
communicate
from.
with you in Hausa...
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
I understand where you're coming from. And that's why we focused on basic literacy. Literacy has different levels. Those people, because they don't get it right from the basic level. So a child that goes to primary school that doesn't develop the basic literacy skills, maybe he starts learning it older age, his vocabulary will not be as rich as someone that started reading from the age of 3, 4. So that's where the problem might come in. But if you can, you talked about being able to function. Yes, being able to function in society is the most important aspect of literacy. And not just function, also build capacity. That's a very key function of literacy. So I might have finished secondary school, but because I'm literate, I didn't go to university, but because I'm literate, I can go online and read a course and learn graphic designing, learn plumbing, learn about the history of the Urhobo people and broaden my knowledge of different things. I can learn about France without going to France because I am literate. But someone who didn't develop that literacy skill cannot build on education. Like I said, literacy is the foundation of education. So it opens the world to you. You can learn anything because you're literate. As I am now, I can go and register in medical school to become a doctor because I am literate. Just be reading those medical things and I become Dr. Namse.
Thank you very much. Let's take a question from a man. There's someone right to my right wearing blue. If you could please give him the mic. Sorry, you're many wearing blue, but he saw himself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mustafa Fatika. My question is that, Mr. Udosen, you made mention of something, education is education. But mostly here in the northern Nigeria, when you are not into Western education, they see you as someone illiterate.
Okay, on education is education, yes. Yeah. Okay, let me retort back at you. What's the definition of education?
Education,
yes,
is about learning something that you don't know.
Good. So that's why I said we need to, as a people, define our own concept of education. That's why it's those divisions of Western Eastern that it is. If you can read, you can understand, you can develop materials, because we've not developed that concept of our homegrown education, so it becomes a problem. If we have Hausa physics textbooks, Hausa biology textbooks, Igbo architectural books, and once I can read it in Igbo, I know how to fix this light. If I can read it in Hausa and I know how to fix this POP, then I'm educated, I'm functional. Because if you ask me, okay, come and do a job, I want to paint and to allow us to do Kabafest, come and arrange this thing. I can read it in Igbo and know how to arrange this place, and it looks good. Then I'm educated. So you understand, that's what we mean. But language is not education per se, but the ability to read, understand it, and develop yourself. So I know that that's the problem with they can speak Hausa very well, but the Hausa they're speaking, they cannot use it to develop themselves because they can't even read. If you give them a Hausa textbook on how to repair a fan, they can't read it. If you give them a Hausa book on how to make something, they can't do it. How the body works, how to wash, they can't do it. So that's why the problem, that's the education now. The knowledge you get from reading those stuff and be able to utilize it in helping yourself and helping your community. I hope that is clear.
Yeah, clear.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry.
Okay, go on, sir.
My second question is to Her Excellency. Is there any solutions, or is government trying to provide solution to those Almajiris that are not willing to enroll themselves into Western education? Willing to enroll themselves.
Well, like I said earlier, I would love for all of them to have Western education because I'm a realist. And the world of today, you really cannot run away from that if you want to be very effective. Literacy is about reading and writing. It doesn't mean reading and writing in English. I know that. You can be literate, reading and writing in Arabic, reading and writing in Hausa, Igbo, but what resources do we have in those languages?
Yes.
That is the problem.
That's the problem.
Like the example he gave, you now buy knocked down maybe fan or something that you need to assemble. The manual will come in English, maybe Spanish, French, Chinese. That's why I know literacy is literacy. Like we always argue up north that we've always been literate because we could read Arabic. But you understand, to live, to be able to live, effectively, you need that literacy. I will continue to say it, especially us here, we need that literacy in English language. Because not only for the, how to assemble things, it's also, that's why in the beginning I said it's a question of survival. There's that issue as well. You need to be able to read signage. You are walking into a corridor, on top of the door, at the end it says, do not enter, danger. You don't know what it is saying. You will just walk right in. Yes. You see, so
Okay.
we really need to be literate for survival, to make our living in the world of today. I wish that we'll have everything we need in our various languages, such that if you are literate in one language, you're okay. But unfortunately, that is not the case at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So we're officially opening. Oh, wow, we have lots of questions. Okay, we have roughly 10 minutes more, and I want to go as fast as possible. I saw 2 hands here. Sumaya, no more. Okay. Who else? There's a persistent person right here wearing, yes, please. We'll go around the room. We'll try as much as possible.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Muhammad Abdulrazak Musa Kofa. I'm from Kofa, Bebeji local government, Kano State. I saw this event, or I saw the advertisement of these events online. But because of my interest to events like this, I registered it. Thank God that I learned a lot of experience. My question goes to Her Excellency, the wife of Governor of Kaduna State. As a first lady, I know that the reason of the question is, let me speak where my voice will be heard. I don't have direct contact to speak with First Lady of Kano State, but thank God that you are around. Maybe you can convey the message to her.
Please, your question.
So the question is that, listen, the question is that, going by the topic of the discussion is improving literacy
Across northern Nigeria.
Across northern Nigeria. Kano State is also part of the northern Nigeria, right? So what I want to ask is that, is there any effort that you make as a First Lady to call the others state around the northern state in order to implement event like this? Because if I got it right, last day before yesterday, your husband was here, and he made mention that she got this idea in one of the states on the south. So had they been that you two, or him himself, that they invite the governor of the northern state to come and witness this important occasion, I think they will take this idea.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that wasn't exactly a question, but thank you so much. There's a hand. Wait, let's go to the back. I need a woman this time around. Okay. Oh yeah now.
Thank you. My name is Nabila. My question is really around language and whether it's a means to an end or an end in itself. I hear Mrs. El-Rufai when she talks about the importance of English, right? But the literacy rates where we have the biggest problems, these are people that are not in this room, and you will hardly meet them, right? So they're in rural communities where English is your business. It's a foreign man's language. Even for those of us here, if you bump into someone in London, for instance, the moment you speak Hausa, you're more comfortable speaking that Hausa because there's camaraderie than the English that got you into their borders. So I'm wondering whether it is feasible, right, to continue our teaching in the local languages, which they already speak at home. They spend more time at home than they will in school, as it stands. Well, you guys talked about the foundation, but that foundation will only help children that are unborn. It won't necessarily help the 10-year-old on the streets that has always spoken Hausa and will probably never travel beyond the north itself. So if they're literate enough, by the time that they're ready to, say, trade with someone in Ogun State, they'll either know that they can actually hire a translator, or they'll take it upon themselves to learn the language. So is language a means to an end or an end in itself?
Very interesting question. And What I want to start with is to say that I'm unapologetically a supporter of the English language in Nigeria. It may not be a popular opinion, but I think as a country, the fact that we have English is a plus for us. For instance, if we didn't have English, I wouldn't be able to talk to Lola. Okay? We are a country. We want to remain as a country, and I think we should keep that language because it unifies us. I will not want to put a limit on anybody, whether you are in the rural area, to say that you are probably never going to get out of your immediate environment. Don't put limits on anybody. Saying that we should teach in our various languages, I know people tend to bring that idea, but you have to think practically, okay? You teach the child in Gumel, in Hausa, okay? Is it not the same WAEC exam they are going to sit with other Nigerians? Apart from that, there's also the fact that we don't have the resources in the various languages, like the textbooks we have, like Gray's Anatomy. Do you have it in Hausa or Yoruba or what? Do you have that? So I think if we say we are going to teach our children in the local languages because that's what they understand, we're already putting them at a disadvantage.
Yes. Okay.
After all, when I was growing up, my parents spoke Hausa to me, okay? We spoke Hausa, so that's the language I grew up and understood. But when I went to primary school and secondary school, I picked up and learned English. So why are we saying that we must teach our children in their local languages because that's the language they understand? You are putting a limit on them. Especially children, they're very good with languages. You will have your language, they can learn language just like that. I think English is important in our country, and it will continue to be important as long as we are one united country.
Thank you. So we can only take one more question. And there's someone at the back, at the back of the camera. Yes, ma'am. Here? Okay, so
it's about the first, how I can communicate with
the First Lady of Kano
the First
State.
Lady of Kano State. You see, I think this issue of First Lady, I take it as rather an informal thing, and each of us has his passion. I'm passionate about literacy, creative writing, but probably your First Lady has other passions. But we have a forum of First Ladies. And what we did, especially in the Northern Governors' Wives Forum, is to think of what do we have in common, okay? There are so many things. There are so many problems that need to be tackled. I know literacy is one of them, even in the North, but we can't do everything. So what we chose is the issue of drugs, misuse of drugs, and also gender-based violence. So those are the issues that we concentrate on as a forum of First Ladies. But then each First Lady has her own interest that she pursues. But if I'm opportune to meet your First Lady, I'll mention it to her.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Yes, does she have the mic already? Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just want to buttress, I believe, Nabila's point a bit.
Please, can we quiet down so that we can hear the question? Thank you so much.
Yes, I just want to buttress Nabila's point a bit. And while I do understand Your Excellency's opinions regarding English, I mean, you have to learn English because you hope to be able to communicate with other people. The thing is, you see, you're asking people, possibly children at the grassroots level, to communicate in English that they don't, that's not their first language. These children, when they are born, right from first year, second year, third year, they are speaking their indigenous language in the spirit of being indigenous and basic learning. Is there an opportunity or something possible that would be put in place where these kids can actually be taught from, that first year in their language and then make a switch. Because, again, based on what Ahmed said earlier on, these children are not dumb. You go to the market and you see these kids manning businesses. Your Mekwashimbola or like people that you buy stuff from on the road, they are very smart. Just imagine learning maths in Chinese. It's practically impossible. So I would like us to not throw away the possible opportunity, of teaching them basic stuff in their basic language and possibly making a switch. Is half-half. You still get.
Thank you so much for that. Please, we have 2 minutes more. We haven't taken a question from that other side. We'll take one more here and we'll come to the front. There's a guy at the back at the very last end. Let's give him the mic and then we'll come to the front. Please, you can also send in your questions or put them as a comment under the YouTube link so that we can easily just go back and comment and have these conversations going. It doesn't end here. Thank you. Yes, please.
My name is Ibrahim and I teach Almajiri kids. But things I've realized that
please, can we quiet down so that we can hear the questions?
When you deal with these kids, you know that they already have an access to money. They know what money, they know the value of money. So I wonder, is it wrong for us to think of them primarily as labor that just needs to be educated? Because when we look at it, it's not all of them. Did you hear that?
Can you say, no, we didn't. Start again.
Can we think of them as labor that just needs to be educated? Because when we look at it, a lot of them are not going to be well-to-do like all of us in this room, or most of us in this room. They're going to end up as menial jobs. So I think, is it wrong for us to think of them like that?
Should we incentivize education and think of kids as labor?
No, like Your Excellency said, you can't put limits on people. You can't assume that they're going to be in that level for the rest of their lives. You know, that there are many people that are Almajiris, that are big business owners today. They travel out of the country, they go everywhere. So put limits to them because just now they are like that.
They will have to advance.
In the next 10 years, you never can tell what will happen from those manual jobs they're doing.
Absolutely.
So shouldn't put limits on them.
Please, let's take the last question from the front here, and then okay, he wants to take one more there. So let's come to the front first, and then we'll go to the back. Sorry, ma'am. One last question.
Excuse me. See,
please, let's quiet down so we can hear her. Thank you.
You see, when we talk about all this teaching children at an early age with their languages and whatsoever, you know, like we have over 300 languages in Nigeria. Over 300. How practical is it for our teachers training colleges to train enough teachers in 300 languages to be actually qualified to teach the children at grassroots? How practical is that? That's the only thing I want to add. Let's look at it practically. You know, it's just almost impossible. We have over 300 languages. Our teachers training colleges cannot handle it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that addition. Unfortunately, we will not be able to take more questions. Please keep the conversations going on all Kabafest social handles, especially on YouTube. It's an interactive platform. I would like to say thank you very much. Please put your hands together for yourselves. You have been very... Yeah, I want to say that. You have been very helpful. I would like our panelists to say one final word, just in 5 seconds. We'll start with Ahmad Mahmood, and then we'll go to Namse and Her Excellency.
Okay, what I'd like to say is, Lola, please, the next time we have a conversation like this, can we have 2 hours? Because this is a very, very important conversation that we are having. Please. Yes. So my own part is I'm not happy that we haven't really focused on this early child education. Fathers, I wanted this message to specifically be to men who are not guilty or ashamed, because honestly, I am. The way that you portray teaching and bringing up children at home and leaving everything, this sick, toxic narrative that depicts women as workaholic embodiments of every form of labor, it needs to stop. Please, people should be more involved in the lives of their children. It's very, very important. We wouldn't be where we are today if not because of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Namse, final words.
All right, final words is that we have to teach at the right level. we're talking of books and developing children. I have my 8-year-old students. They write this, and because they wrote it themselves, they're more interested in reading. So encourage your children to write down, put down their fantasies down, and in that way we can build literacy from the home.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Well, my final word is just to announce that if I ever have the opportunity to nominate who will be the Minister of Education in Nigeria, Namse is my candidate. Namse is my candidate. He's so passionate.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.